Star Wars 7x7, episode 2588. Remember that whole Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser thing that's supposed to be happening at Walt Disney World? Well, there's been a lot more information released about it over the last couple of weeks, and I thought I'd summarize for you with some top 5 highlights about it. Punch it! Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So, on July 21st, the fine folks at the Walt Disney Parks blog released an official poster for the Galactic Starcruiser experience, and then 9 days later, on July 30th, they posted a YouTube video with a sit-down amongst a bunch of Imagineers talking about the experience that people are going to have on the Galactic Starcruiser. And in case you need the refresher, this is the hotel experience that they're referring to as story living, unquote, quote unquote, that's going to take place attached to Galaxy's Edge. And so this is what we know about it now. For starters, we know a release date and a general guideline for the situation. So it's supposed to be coming in spring of 2022. All right, so that narrows it down to 3 particular months, but there you go. You know, pandemic notwithstanding, knock on wood. And it's supposed to be a 2-night and 2-day experience. So, you know, that I guess gets a little confusing because you think of hotel type things as 3 days and 2 nights, for example. But yeah, that's how they're describing it, as a 2-day, 2-night experience. The second highlight of the new information that's been released suggests that there are basically 5 kind of roles you can play, as it were. On the poster, they depict 2 people described as younglings, but you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It could be adults too. A Jedi in training and someone who's described as a youngling with a piece of technology. I believe that's going to be a scoundrel, smuggler-like character. And then there's also a First Order officer, and then there's a Twi'lek holding a martini glass. And the description talks about being somebody who's part of high society, so that seems to be what the Twi'lek person would be depicting. And so that's 4. But the 5th role seems to be just the general tourist role. And so in the YouTube video, and I'll link that in the show notes for this episode and also at the blog post for the show's episode at sw7x7.com, they talk about wanting to make the experience one that is good not just for Star Wars fans, but also the people who love the people who are Star Wars fans. And so if you don't necessarily want to dive immersively into the experience the same way, you can sit back and just be a tourist and watch things unfold. Now, a third thing that we learned is that the story that you participate in within the Galactic Starcruiser, or at least whichever story you choose to participate in, because it could be, you know, any one of those 4, the First Order, the High Society, the, what I'm guessing is a smuggler scoundrel, and then the Jedi in training, right? Those stories were developed at the same time that the story for Galaxy's Edge itself was developed. And so this has been in the works for just as long. It just so happens that Galaxy's Edge, the theme park experience, opened first, and they've been working on this Galactic Starcruiser thing for the experience itself and developing that for a bit longer, obviously, because it hasn't opened yet. But the story itself was developed at the same time and plays very well and layers on the storytelling experience that happens, or the story living experience, I guess I should say, that happens at Galaxy's Edge. And full disclosure here, I've not been to Galaxy's Edge, so I don't know what that is. But one of the things that they talk about in the video is the fact that, for example, Smuggler's Run, there's a thing about a coaxium shipment, and with the Galactic Starcruiser experience, you get to find out who is doing this deal for the coaxium, and you actually get to deliver it. And so that's the thing that suggests to me that that youngling with a piece of tech that they talk about in the poster is more of a smuggler/scoundrel situation, because it doesn't necessarily seem like the kind of storytelling situation that would happen with either the First Order officer pictured or the Jedi in training character. I mean, possibly the high society thing, but more likely the, sort of, trying to keep a low profile kind of character seems more likely to me. A fourth thing that we've learned is kind of a general outline of the experience. You can kind of piece it together by watching the video. So one of the things that they make very clear is that there's a sit-down dining situation on night 1, and it involves a dinner show. There's entertainment, there's music, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and characters in that entertainment show may also play into the story that's being told across the 2 nights and 2 days. But you arrive on the Galactic Starcruiser, and there's a muster where you learn about what's going on, you get trained on the ship, but a first order investigation is happening, and so the crew is actually going to be delegating duties to you. So you actually will learn bridge controls pretty early on. You'll get to the night 1 entertainment show, and then eventually you're going to end up at Batu, and so that suggests that following night 1, call it day 2 or day 1.5. I'm not sure, but that's when they deliver you to Galaxy's Edge and when you get to have the experiences there. I think what seems to have been implied is that I know there are situations, or at least I gather there are situations where, maybe you are able to get on Smuggler's Run or Rise of the Resistance, and maybe not if you're just going for the park experience itself. But if you're part of the Galactic Starcruiser experience, it seems like that's going to guarantee you access to those rides. They don't say that straight out at all. So this is just me, listening to the conversation and thinking about the experience. And it seems like you would have to be a part of that, especially if they're going to say things like, oh, with Smuggler's Run, there's this coaxium shipment, and that you're going to find out who is trying to get the coaxium as part of the Galactic Starcruiser experience, and then you're going to deliver it after the fact. So it seems like that requires you to be on Smuggler's Run, and by extension, it seems like the Rise of the Resistance ride, in which you will encounter Kylo Ren, might come into play as well, because Kylo Ren is pictured on the poster for the Galactic Starcruiser situation, and with the First Order investigation happening, I am wondering whether, once you go back to the ship after you've spent the day at Batu, on night 2, whether there's going to be some sort of Kylo Ren interaction on the ship. I mean, there is supposed to be action. They talked about action. They've already revealed that Kylo Ren and Rey and Chewbacca are going to be a whole part of this experience, so it seems like night 2 would be the time in which it might happen. And then, once you've dealt with the First Order and gotten away from them, then you would be able to say, deliver that coaxium thing on your way out. Call that day 3, day 2.5 maybe. And the last thing, the fifth thing, I guess I've, added more things than just 5, but within categories, all right? We'll say it that way. So this fifth and final category is the fact that on multiple occasions, there were conversations in that YouTube video where the people talked about connections to other Star Wars storytelling. And that is happening on multiple levels. Like, on the one hand, they make it sound like the story of Galaxy's Edge is actually going to find its way out into other Star Wars media. And in a way, that's kind of happened to some degree, because of course we have things like Tales from the Galaxy's Edge in VR, and the novel Black Spire by Delilah Dawson, and also A Crash of Fate by Zoraida Cordova that take place on Batu, and of course there's already been, the Thrawn novel that took place on Batu. So yes, stories of Galaxy's Edge get out into the canon, but they're also suggesting that the experiences that you have as part of the whole Galactic Starcruiser situation will tie in, and they mention specifically movies and TV shows, novels, and graphic novels was the other term, which I would presume to mean comics, but there is also a graphic novel coming with The Edge of Balance from the High Republic, so that would qualify too. But they do make it sound like it's kind of a two-way street, basically, that storytelling out of Galaxy's Edge will be hitting other media, and other media is referenced in the Galactic Starcruiser experience too. So yeah, all of this sounds pretty exciting, and this is the kind of experiential thing that normally we cover on our monthly What's Coming Up This Month episodes, but we didn't know that we were going to be getting anything about the Galactic Starcruiser experience this month, or at least for the month of July, because that's when those two particular things, the poster and the YouTube video, came out. But hey, we're always going to follow up on these things, and that's what we've done today. And so that is going to do it for this episode of the show. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2021 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.